as well. Let's see, share. Very good. And now let's see if we can go directly into the presentation. Okay, somebody tell me if you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Does anybody see it?
You're
Thank
good
you
to
so
go,
much.
Rick.
All right. Perfect. Well, this is called applying to college in the new normal. I don't think we'll ever have an old normal ever again. Even if we go to the everything is there's no virus, there's no whatever. Every year seems to be a new normal. And so I want to walk you through this. And this is what I really wanted to call the presentation. Dope. I have no idea how to stand out in the application process during COVID, and my parents are freaking out. This is for the students. And some parents are, you know, they have third graders, and I say, you know what, the first thing is let them learn how to tie their shoes, maybe go to the bathroom by themselves. And college is important, but let them be kids. And this brings back memories for a lot of you parents, the first day of school, trying to drag your kid to school, and now as they're going off to college, you're like, no, you can't leave me, because then it's just my life is suddenly very different, and it's just all part of the transition. But for students, the biggest concern they have is that they apply to all these colleges and they get the big doo-doo, their application has been, and we never at SMU use the word rejected, because that sounds very personal. We use the term your application has been denied. It's not about you as a person, about the process. Now, I've been asked to predict the future. Well, I got news for you. I'm about as good as predicting the future, because for a lot of your parents, you have kids who are in the 11th and 10th grade. Think back a year ago for the current senior parents, when they were in the 11th grade, no way in the world would they have imagined this, because this was pre-pandemic. So who's to say what it will look like? All I can do is give you the tools to be ready for it. And so this is why I love this quote. The best way to predict the future is to create it. A lot of the power really is in your hands. And so students, if you're out there, parents, first thing that you want to do is help the student understand who they are, because that's the only way you can figure out the kinds of colleges to apply to. You can apply to big colleges, small colleges, and here are some questions you should be asking. What kind of environment do I want? If I want to surf every single day, they are not applying to schools in Iowa or Arkansas. I need to have the snow. Well, Florida probably is not a good choice. So students need to first understand themselves. So these are great questions to help them start to begin to filter down through the thousands of colleges, and we'll have that quiz in just a minute, about the kinds of colleges that might be appealing to them. And so start making these kinds of questions, and then start putting different answers for each of the different questions. So you can start compiling a list and gauging and matching schools based upon how well they fit each of these criteria. That's only part A. The part B is you need to get to know us, because yes, we're in Texas, but not all Texas schools are the same. In fact, not all schools in California are the same. I grew up in Los Angeles and went to Claremont, and each of the 5 different Claremont colleges are very different, but people would think that they're pretty much the same. I worked at USC. It's a great university. It's not the same as Pepperdine or UCLA or CSUN, all very different kinds of schools. So students need to start to get to know themselves, and they need to start to get to know colleges and universities. And a good way to figure out what kind of school it is that you're looking at, look at the mission statement. That'll give you an idea of the kind of student that the university values and prides itself on helping to produce when they graduate. And if you find that a school is, we want to make sure that kids are very vegan, and your idea of the perfect meal is like a steak this big, then maybe that is not the best school for you. So find out from the university itself the kind of student that does well. And because break is just around the corner, I think it was 18 days, I think I heard, start asking kids who are coming back virtually, of course, be safe, you're in LA County. Ask them about their college choice and what they found interesting, what they found surprising, what was something that they didn't expect, and start helping you gauge those fill in those holes that you might have about a university. Because when you Google us, we're going to send you the most amazing pictures, the most amazing anecdotes. We're going to find all kinds of wonderful things, but you want to, it's like reading a review about a restaurant, realizing that, wow, they must have gone on a good night because I don't like the food that I'm getting. So you need to get as much information from a variety of sources, not just the internet, not just your parents, not just your fellow classmates, all these different sources. So this is the first question. How many colleges are there in the United States? I would tell you there are a lot. There are 3,026, and that's a big number. You don't want to apply to all of them. In fact, I'm going to tell you the secret a little bit later of what I think the perfect number is. But this is the age of technology. Instead of yelling at Alexa, you really want to go, hey Siri, which college is the best for Daniela? You know, Siri will probably say, I don't know. I didn't go to college. I need to know more about Daniela and what she wants to study and what she likes and what kind of person she is. So you can't ask that question, but I encourage you to try it. See what you get. Now, I mentioned that magic number. This is the magic number, I think, of how many applications you should submit. Remember, you have to coordinate all these different applications when you apply to them. And the question I get all the time, typically from parents, is, but what if we don't get in? And I always respond that, one, you are not applying. The student is applying. I get so many emails from parents saying that we are almost done with the essay. And of course, I want to send them to link about the, Varsity Blues scandals. I hope we are not writing the essay. And I can always tell when a parent wrote the email, because just like me, you grew up in the olden days, back in the manual typewriters, and you always put 2 spaces after the period. That's how I can tell it wasn't a student, because they don't do that anymore. Clue number 1. But back to the 9 colleges that you applied to. The more colleges you apply to, you're taking spots away from somebody else. So imagine how it feels that your best friend didn't get in because you were so nervous and you applied to 30 schools, knowing that you can't possibly go to 30 schools, let alone 2, you can only go to 1, but you were so nervous and you just want to throw that net really wide. So you want to start being very strategic. Which of the schools are the ones that you're really looking at? So I use 9 as the magic number, and I break it down into 3 categories. Safeties, you've done your research. It would be something very tragic if you didn't get in, because based upon all the information you have, you are pretty admissible. What you can do is your school uses Naviance. You can actually see where you are in relationship to kids who've applied in the past. And it's just not just this year, it's also historical information. The part that's going to be a little crazy is when they start looking at test score information, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit. What are some good matches? Meaning, yeah, I have a pretty good chance. It kind of fits. If you're looking at going into neuroscience, you probably aren't going to be applying to a liberal arts college focusing in on creative writing and philosophy. It might not be a good match. So you might make it in terms of the academics, but not in terms of the kind of student they're looking for. Reaches, so many schools are reaches, and you should really gauge it. Ask yourself, how are you evaluating why you should be applying to it? It is not conversation that you have at dinner parties. My son, my daughter applied to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, etc. And the other parents are thinking, but your kid has a B average. I don't think that's a good thing. It's not about where you apply, it's making wise choices. Not to say that you should not consider a good school. Let me rephrase that. Not to say that you shouldn't consider a very selective school because you don't think you qualify, but be wise about which schools you are applying to. And really, if you're a parent, ask your kid, why do you want to apply to that school? And they better have some good reasons. And right now in the application, we ask kids, why are you applying to SMU? And some of them are so generic, it feels as if they just changed the SMU which unfortunately some kids forget to change. I'm applying to SMU because of its lovely location, 7 miles north of downtown Dallas, and has a pretty campus, and there's a lot of school spirit, and I've always wanted to go to the school that will make me the person I'm meant to be. You've described every school in the country. You've not told me anything. And so as a parent, you want to ask your kid, okay, Steve, why are you applying to USC? Oh, because I love football. Okay, we're not paying all that money just for you to watch football. There's something called ESPN. Give me another reason. Be aggressive is a little harsh, but be very direct. Why are you applying to that school? And of course, don't let them apply just because their friends are going, especially girlfriends or boyfriends. They're going to break up anyway. So make them pick schools that are appropriate, and make sure you don't do the yay or ooh because you wouldn't go there. Remember, it's their college choice. Get organized. I don't care if you're a very selective school, if you're a school that gets in based upon just a number. Students, you need to be organized. Start making a list and start writing these things down and start to share them with your parents so that they have an idea of where you're coming from. Stanford, Princeton, Yale, SMU, I just put all similar schools together, and right now you should be laughing. But I do encourage students to really make an extensive list as possible, because you're going to forget which schools you're applying to and how you felt about it, especially if you visited. The next part comes is, how do colleges decide? There are over 3,000 colleges in the universities in the country. There are over 3,000 different ways that colleges evaluate students. Here are the more common ones that people think that we do. We get a magic 8-ball because, yay, you're admitted. Yes, I've dated myself. Flipping a coin. Heads, you're denied. Tails, you're not admitted. That's kind of how you think it is. And of course, I love Big Bang Theory, rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. There really is no one uniform way that colleges decide on which kids to take. Some may put directions in their application and websites, which will help you decide where the student falls in terms of safety, reach, and I missed one already, but one of those three. Here are the factors that are considered: a student's resume, curriculum, letters of recommendation and other recommendation letters besides just from the school, grades, supplement, application, the transcript, the essay, activities, and I have scores circled for a reason, and we'll come to that in a second, and GPA. What's really important to remember is that kids applying from Chaminade are not the same as kids applying from Grant High School, from D. Toledo, from Harvard Westlake. We will put the student in the context of the school, because we can't penalize courses if they're not available. We can't penalize a student because they happen to go to a school that everyone gets a B and only the rare kid gets an A. We're going to talk about that in a second. So breathe. You've made the right choice, because it's not just the academic preparation, it's the preparation for them to be wonderful citizens and members of the school community. And that means just a little bit of just the school ethics at Chaminade are amazing. So colleges recognize that and see that. Now I have scores circled because right now so many schools, if not all, are temporarily test optional or test free. Some people will call it test blind, but we're going to call that test free, meaning test free means that we don't want your scores. We don't want to know if you took the scores. We don't want to know anything about test scores. Test optional, and there are variations of that at SMU, were test optional, which means that it is the student's option whether or not they want to send test scores. And what I've been doing is looking through all the students that have applied, and if I feel that their test scores are going to hurt their application, I will send them an email saying, you know what, it's your option. I'm just saying that if I get an email asking me to take off the scores, I will do that. Hint, 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 here is the range of students that typically have been admitted, and I don't quite say it, but you are not even in that range, and that might be hurting your chances. It's the student's option. If a student sends test scores, we have to use them. And some kids don't realize that. And I encourage students right now to go access their Common App and their ACT portals to see if they might have accidentally sent scores out when they were just goofing around. There was a kid named Charlie, and he says, you know what, I'm going to see if in the 9th grade. boy, ninth grader, figure, I want to see what kind of score I get if I put C, 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 C all the way down. He got a 12, and he didn't realize that those free scores he sends out, they count. So we got him. And so he didn't realize that it was making a big difference. So access the student's account to make sure what scores are there, and then go from, and then make a decision from that point forward. In terms of students who are taking the test now, only do so if you don't put yourself at peril. Please, please do not feel you need to jump in a car, jump on a plane, take a bus, jump on a train, take a boat to go take a test in some other state or city because they're offering it. And you've heard that if you don't take the test, you're not going to get in. That is not true. However, follow directions. See what the school is asking you to do. Number two, that only applies to this application cycle. We're going to evaluate next year whether or not we're going to use test scores. And if I had my way, I would say not to use test scores for some time, because as juniors, you're missing opportunities to take the exam. You're missing opportunities for test prep classes. You're missing time. Yes, people say, well, you're at home all the time. You have all the time in the world. It's not the same. To actually be in a guided training session, which is basically what you're doing on how to work the exams themselves in terms of being strategic on how you answer them, when to guess, when not to guess, etc. And so I'm going to say that, many schools will continue the test optional for at least one more year, but you need to make a list and see what schools will continue to be test optional and which schools will not. I've had parents ask me, Rick, we heard they have open seats for the ACT in Salt Lake City. Should we go take it? And I say, no. There's no reason to put your life and the lives of the people around you at risk just to go take an exam. But that's just for SMU. Do your research and ask that question. People are really concerned about your health and safety. Breathe, let it go. You are not going to be evaluated just on that. So these other factors become even more critical. And this is where kids need to start becoming very reflective. Yes, especially boys. Being a boy myself, being a young boy many, many thousands of years ago, it's hard to do because that's just like, oh, yeah, I just don't do that. Yeah, you need to start being very reflective and understanding who you are. I mentioned GPA. A 3.5 GPA at Crespi is not the same as a 3.5 GPA at Chaminade, not the same as a 3.5 at D Toledo. We will consider the GPA context of the classes that we're taking, the number of classes that we're taking, kinds of classes that we're taking, and what was going on in your world. A lot of schools went to pass-fail second semester of last year, so kids may have received credit, and so their GPA then becomes more important. We're not evaluating what they would have gotten in terms of A's or C's to affect their GPA. So we will look very, very carefully at how you got to where you're at. This kid is struggling in Spanish. I mean, preterite subjunctive, which is what you learn in Spanish 3, is really, really tough. And so how in the world, I can't even do it in English, but it's consistent. You've always gotten the C or B all the way along the way, but you're crushing it in English and the sciences. We will look at that. We will analyze, are you challenging yourself, but not going crazy? If I had $1 for every time I heard the question, is it better to take 10 AP classes and get B's and C's, or is it better to just take 5 classes and get A's? You do what's best for your unique situation. If you're going to be an engineer and you're not taking calculus by the time you're a senior, an engineering school may frown upon that. If you want to be an English major and you're not taking AP English, or you're getting English, well, it may not be the best major for you. We put it all in context. And you know who the best person to ask that question of? Your counselor at school. They are experts. They are wise and sage and Yoda-ish, and they will help you make the best decision for you. And you can always reach out to the college admission counselor. So we will look at all these kinds of things in terms of how competitive, your dual enrollment, and all those kinds of things. And I'm watching my time, and this is the most important thing to consider. Colleges are going to be looking at everything. One of the things that we're going to look at is your essay. And these are the different kinds of applications that are out there. Each one of them has a different set of essay instructions. Students conceivably could be writing 15 to 20 essays. Each one of them is going to be different. You cannot cut and paste one essay and use it for another essay topic, because it's like trying to use your economics essay that you wrote for class for your poetic literature of the medieval ages. It's a great essay, but doesn't answer the question. So writing is really easy. It really is. And students have stories that are amazing, that are inside of them. Let them out. We want to see that you've thought carefully about the prompt. You're sharing about who you are. I've been reading a lot of applications and essays already, and unfortunately, many times kids spend a lot of time describing something else instead of themselves. If you're talking about your great-grandfather who came to this country and now your family has a big Italian restaurant business, that's great intro, but get to why it's important for us to know that about you specifically. So writing is easy. All you have to do is cross out all the wrong words and you'll have a fabulous essay. But this is only part of it. The other part is we're going to ask you some goofy questions. Let's go back in time when learning was pure joy. Tell us what your favorite book was. What are challenges that society faces today? Question number 4, describe one of your quirks and why you are. Please have someone edit this. We've gotten some things where we go like, oh no, she didn't share that. Please have someone edit you, because you don't want to be on our here are these answers and not in a good way. So top 5 errors, and yes, I spelled error wrong because school is spelled wrong. We get so many typos. Spell check does not catch errors. Example, I had a student write about how they were so excited to be in the horror role instead of honor roll for college. So here are some things. Missing deadlines is huge. And remember the time zone. Our deadline is, or was, November the 1st. In Texas, at 11 p.m. on November the 1st in California, it's already November the 2nd. So back up the deadline. That saying that if you're early, you're on time is absolutely correct. If you're on time, you're actually late. So it's all about a virtual reality now. And this is where colleges are hoping that kids take this to heart. Number 1, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. Students need to check their virtual presence. How many times have they wrote a review about a restaurant and were kind of nasty? So Google yourself. Parents, Google yourself. Students, Google yourself. First time I Googled myself, I was a Colombian drug lord. I've never been to Colombia, so it just was just unfortunate. And you just got to make sure that you are reaching out to make sure that you are spot on. Email addresses. Kids, please be mindful. Pick a college email address. The first one, if you're going to go to Stanford, please spell it correctly. And if you're writing to me that you want to go to Stanford, how does that match with what you must admit me? Yeah, that's a little bold. Rick 0515-2002, guess what? I am now going to open a credit card because I know your name and your birth date, and I'm going to the Bahamas. The most common one probably would be the last one. Some kind of identifier with your name in 2021, and then students give that password to your parents so that they have an opportunity to help filter all this emails that we get, because we can track whether or not you open our emails. We can track whether you click on the link in the email. We can actually track how much time you spend on our website. So when the comment says, Rick, how interested do you think the student really is? And they can see that you've not done anything, I can say, well, I don't know, because they've not been to any of my programs. They've not been in touch with me. I've been to their school virtually and in person back in the day. I've never seen this kid, and they're saying SMU is their first choice. And so you want to make sure that you attend as many programs as possible for your sake, not just ours. So digital footprint is out there. It's what we are all doing. And this is why I was hoping that you would actually show some of your screens. Visuals really matter. There was a kid who was so excited saying SMU is his #1 choice, and he had nothing but TCU stuff in his room. He started going, oh no, you don't understand this. I'm in my sister's room because my room's a mess and she goes to TCU. It really, really is. How do I know that? Eating is really awkward. Talking to me and his in and out was falling out of his mouth. Make sure you mute, because I had a kid, we were in a deep in a conversation and mom started yelling at him. I told you to empty the trash. You never do. It was like the kid was dying of embarrassment. And worse, I actually had a kid having a conversation with me, and his naked 3-year-old little sister came running by on the way to the bathroom. You can't catch me. And he was freaking out. And I said, you know what? It could have been worse. It could have been mom, dad, your older brother, sister. So please be mindful. You're letting us into your world. Before tonight's over, take a look around your room and see what we see. During the coronavirus, a lot is going on. Most importantly, for students in the 11th grade, start thinking about how they're going to show how they spent their time. And there's going to be lots of holes in your academic record. You couldn't take a class. Make sure you document that so you let us know. You're working on your Eagle Scout and you're not sure you need a Gold Award. Show your demonstrated interest. Talk about how you'd sign up for the sport in case that ends up being a situation about you can't take tests. And visiting campus is really important, even virtually, for you, because that gives you a chance to actually find out if it's a place for you, not just looking at pictures. I want to end with one of my favorite quotes, and that's by Maya Angelou. If you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. Kids, students, you are amazing. Every one of you is unique and different, and we embrace that. Let's get to know that. And that's how college, selective colleges specifically, are looking to see what you've done and what you can bring to our community, because we have more applicants to fill our spaces than we have bodies. So we can be, and that's where the term comes from, selective. And again, I made sure that I'm at Chaminade. Y'all rock. You really do. And I'm always so honored and truly blessed when I'm asked to speak to all of you, because your students are just so amazing. And I love getting to know one of them. And even when they say, hey, Rick, I'm going to some other school, I'm like, I'm so proud of you, because I want you to be happy. And that really is what it's all about. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And hopefully some of you are still there. Whew, that's
You're
always
awesome,
my biggest
Rick.
fear.
Thank you, Rick.
I've been talking for an hour and realized, oh my gosh, my camera's been off. You know, nobody said anything. So I'm all good there. So make any sense? Nod your head. Awesome. I see some good stuff. Very good. All right.
Yes, thank you, Rick, so much for doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's about 6:15 right now. We're going to be sticking around here for a little bit if you guys want to stick around and ask Rick some questions. Oh, yeah. We do have our next session, which then starts at 6:20, so about 4 minutes from now, which is the UC admissions. So please stick around, ask some questions, take a little break, and then please join us for the UC admissions at 6:20. And that link is going to be on that PDF that we did send out to you guys. So if you guys can't find that, Mrs. Cuneo sent that out a couple times, and I believe that link is right there, so you guys can go right to the UC admissions. Thank you again, Rick. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Daniel, I love your background. I'm trying to figure out if that's the Bengals or the Browns. I can't quite tell the.
These are, let's see here.
What's the orange one?
The orange one right there is Pepperdine.
Okay, you're muted. I'm just kidding. See? I mean, imagine you were a kid and you're like, yeah, it's my #1 choice. And everything in the room was covered with Pepperdine. And that's where we kind of wonder, like, really now?
We just need some more SMU swag from you next time we see you.
Oh, he's working it good. I like it. I like it. And some people don't realize that, you know, their kids especially, they're wearing their hoodies and they're backlit. And I feel like I'm talking to Darth Vader. I don't see her face. I forget what school I was at where they asked all the students to stand up, because apparently the girl was doing her classes in her pajamas and she forgot and she got out of bed, and the whole class discovered more about her than they really cared to. And so we all stood up and was like, what, are we doing the Pledge of Allegiance. He goes, nope, this is just a rule we have to make sure that kids realize that just because you're at home in your pajamas, you have to be professional. Like, I'm wearing shorts, but I'm not standing up. I'm at home. Okay, there's all kinds of things in the I'm so bad, chats. See if there are any questions.
I've been going through it, Rick. It doesn't look like there's been any questions asked yet. Those are links for the different Zoom meetings and presentations. And if you can send us your presentation, we'll be happy to put that up, because I know a lot of parents ask about that. But we are recording this session too, so that we can distribute that to any families that didn't see it.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I saw this. Mr. Diaz, what is the best way? And then it disappeared.
Oh, to contact you if we ever have questions.
It depends. Is it a good question? Because the reason why I say that is I get kids saying, oh, Mr. Diaz, I'm really interested in your school. I just wanted to know where you're located.
Oh.
It's on the website. That's a good first place to start. In fact, I have a filter in my email that if it's a question that I feel could be answered online, what's your application deadline? Do you take the common application? Yeah, I just can't. It's just tough. But definitely go to the website and just, search for SMU, or pick your state, California, type in Chaminade. Oh, there I am, and just click and ask away.
Thank you, Rick.
My pleasure. You're welcome, Victor. I saw the thumbs up. I'm looking at all the faces.
We did have one other question, Rick.
Oh, sure.
It said, I thought most schools had an option for a standard essay. Is that not correct?
No. What happens is that if you use the common application, there are a set of 7 prompts that you can write about. They change them usually every other year, but because of COVID, they didn't change any this year. So it may be a good start, but you don't know what new prompts will be available this coming summer. And they usually swap out a couple of them. So some will remain the same. The ones that most likely will stay the same are, everyone has a story, tell us about yourself. Number 7 is, okay, just write something and send it to us. And then everything in between can vary from year to year to year, and they change the wording to see if the students are paying attention. But where colleges can affect it is that we have our own supplement, and we haven't changed ours in years, but I know like the University of Chicago is notorious for having the most outrageous questions, and USC actually joined the fray. I think they were trying to compete with University of Chicago to come up with it, and I borrowed their questions actually for part of the presentation, see who can ask the most bizarre questions. And so you need to check. Nothing's worse than writing a great essay and realizing, oh my God, it was from last year. Yeah, you get dinged for that, because following directions is so important. So so there's no one standard essay. So make sure that you answer the question. And that's the biggest problem students have when I do workshops with them. And I say, you know what, this is a fabulous essay. I don't know what question you think you were answering, but it's not the one I asked. So make sure that you follow directions and actually read the essay. Thanks, Mr. Tom. I love thumbs up. It's very virtual.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks. I'm off the next week. Thanks, man.
All right, take care. Peace. Look at all these great faces. So, Laura, I couldn't send it back to you saying, wait, is that tonight? I don't think your heart could have taken it.
I would have lost my mind. I'm glad you did it.
I know. It works so much, especially when you got 8,000 moving parts moving around. It's like, yes.
Thank you. We so appreciate you being available and such great information, especially about all the COVID changes. And I think that was really, really spot on, really helpful.
Well, thanks. And I saw Heather just asked a question about applying to a state school out of state. That's where it becomes tricky, because their regulations may change from year to year. Again, it's just going to their website. Let's say you're applying to the University of Arizona or University of New Mexico, working with my dear friend Gary B. You will go onto the website and see, here are the requirements for kids applying from out of state. What does it take to qualify for a WUI scholarship? What additional requirements do I have because I'm coming from out of state? For the most part, though, it is just following directions. And it may be, they may have state mandates about we must take 80% of our kids from our state, which means that you are competing with a much smaller pool, but the competition is a little more rigorous. So again, just a very valid question to ask of, you know, as an out-of-state student, what additional things do you recommend that I do? I love all these questions. I'm trying to see if I recognize any of the names. I have an iPhone. Nice. Very good. Trying to see. There you go. I feel like I should be like doing a little song and dance, entertaining.
No, I mean, your presentation enough is entertainment. I love listening to it no matter how many times I hear it. It is always very exciting and interesting, and, you know, so you do a great job, Rick.
Well, thanks. I'm just an old fart, just shooting the breeze, and that's kind of how I talk with parents and students. I don't want to dazzle you with, I just want to be real as it goes along. But I would say the most interesting essay I read this year was a kid who wrote an essay about coffee. That the smell of coffee in the morning, the grinding sound, and he's a coffee snob, and he would never step foot in a Starbucks, and he has his own, not a chopper, but an actual coffee bean crusher, and talks about the smell of Arabica beans from Africa versus Central America. And in between, he's layering all these things about himself, and oh my God, it was just, it made me want to go into Amazon and order all these coffees. But it was a brilliant, wonderful, insightful essay. It doesn't have to be about world peace or, you know, red state versus blue state. And yeah, we got a lot of those this year.
Yeah.
But,
Rick, it looks like Heather asked, are you doing in-person tours at SMU?
At SMU, yes, we are. And we are guided by the guidelines from our state and county in Texas. Right now, you just sign up. We limit the number, and you are required to wear a mask. You're not allowed in any facilities. It's all external. We're trying to keep it as safe as possible for the SMU community, students, staff, and faculty. And you get a tour, and you get a tour guide who has this boom box that shouts so you can hear. We keep social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And we have some cutouts where you can do like, hey, I'm at SMU, and all that kind of stuff. And you will get a sense of what it's really like for sure. And it is definitely worth doing, but only at your own personal comfort level. I would never want to, I would feel horrible if a kid came to SMU feeling, I better go to campus so I can say I was at campus. No, I want you to be safe. Please, that's the most important thing. So yes, but yeah. Great questions. In fact, that's how the UC admissions link, there you go. That's how I decided to work at SMU. I was working at USC, great place, loved my job, loved everything about it. And they said, hey, Rick, want to come work at SMU? First, I had to Google. Well, back then I had to call somebody and say, what the heck is SMU? And I said, whoa, wait a minute, Texas. I'm from Los Angeles. Other than the Cowboys always killing my Rams, but I had no idea what the SMU was all about. And so I said no. Because I had this horrible image of Texas. And they said, Rick, please, before you decide, we're going to fly you out there. And this building behind the steps, and looked out and went, whoa, this reminds me of Claremont in a way, because it's very collegial. It feels very and collegiate and friendly and warm, not at anything at all like I was expecting. I didn't see a single horse or a single cowboy or a single tumbleweed, which is what I was expecting. And so when you visit campus, kids accuse us of putting happy drops in the water because they walk onto campus and go, oh my God, I love it here. And girls are crying, no, you can't make me go home. I'm going to stay here. And they want to stay. And so we actually get more kids from Southern California than we do from any other part of the world, including Dallas. It just is just such a perfect fit for kids coming from California. And we tell them there's an In-N-Out. Yeah, they'll try and convince you to eat Whataburger, but In-N-Out Burger, a mile from campus, when you got to get your double chocolate shake and animal fries groove on. So it's all there.